Hey guys, happy Thursday. I think you guys probably like Thursdays because I at least try to do something artsy, and you all wait so patiently all week wondering what to do with these cool items you have. So A, I appreciate your patience, and B, I'm excited to show you. So if if I would have done this whole project in front of the screen, it might not have been super interesting for you guys. So I did sort of work on it in between some of my Zoom conferences. I did do a little cutting while I was waiting for kids to write things today in Zoom. Anyway, I want to show you what I have. So when you picked up your work, if you were with your parents or if it was just your parents, there was a sign that said, please choose a cardboard piece. Maybe some of you already kind of have in your brain an idea of what the cardboard piece looks like. And here's the thing, is they're all different shapes and sizes because your cardboard thing is representing a place where someone lives. So sometimes a place where someone lives is a house. A house is sort of a freestanding building with rooms. Oftentimes it has a yard, not always. Sometimes people live in a condominium. And a condominium is sometimes can be kind of similar to apartments, except that generally in condominiums people own them. And sometimes they're bigger, but not always. So that's kind of the difference, is usually in condominiums people own them. Sometimes people live in apartments. Sometimes the apartments are really tall with lots of different floors. Sometimes there are smaller apartment buildings with just a few units. Let's see. Other places that people live. I'm kind of looking out my window, looking around, seeing what's around. Sometimes people live in a house and there are units behind the house. So lots of different things. So depending what your cardboard looks like, you get to decide what kind of dwelling it is. It does not have to be super realistic. So here is the shape of, this is my house. And so far, I've got a pattern for my roof, and you probably guessed that this is a door. So you guys should find actually and this is a folded in half brightly colored paper. Everyone had this in their packet, and it had paper schnibbles in it, which is what I use for my side here. And then also this sort of scrapbooking paper, which is how I made my roof pattern. So you guys should find that. You also, now you can see that I have a ribbon out. You also got two sort of longish pieces of ribbon, as well as you guys have a ribbon from last week. So when you're making masks for your animals, your stuffed animals, or your plushies as you like to call them, you had some ribbon. So if you know where that is, feel free to use it on your house. That can make it more interesting. So that was... Oh, and you have this little pouch, which I think if you were patient enough not to open it, props to you. So it's a little cup, right? Remember, we reuse cups. So yogurt, Pringles, all those types of things. We make you guys rinse them, and then we use them for things. So you had a little cup, and then I had a paper towel around it and some tape. Almost looked like a present, a very messily wrapped present. Props to you if you kept it unopened. It's okay if you opened it. Nothing super exciting. It wasn't like an actual present in there. There were just a bunch of little tiny pieces of like firmer cardboard, almost like from a paint chip. And I thought I had brought some of those home to use on my cardboard house. I was planning on like tiling my roof or tiling my door. However, I realized I did not bring any home for myself, which is why I just used this. But you have like little tiny different bits of paper. My plan was to put some glue and glue them to kind of make my roof or my door or something on my house look textured. So that's what all those pieces are for. And also in that little container, and this was the last thing, and I also don't have those, you should have had at least 3 buttons in there. So if I had a button, actually, I think that would make a really great door handle. I do not have a button, so I might just have to draw my door handle. But all of those materials you can use for your house. Here's the other thing about the material. Oh, and there's tissue paper, right? If you wanted to make a chimney coming out of your house and have the tissue paper be smoke, you could do that. I don't have any more cardboard, so I'm not going to make a chimney, but I might do that with the tissue or something else. Be creative. There aren't rules with the house. The other thing is, and I just want to say this before I forget, is that we're giving you lots of materials. You won't always use them for every project. So if you have materials that you maybe haven't used and you have a place to save them, and your parents are okay with it, like a shoebox or something, I would encourage you to save the materials, because there are lots of things you can create on your own with them. So some of you have been showing us on some of your Zooms all the things you're making. You have really good ideas, so you can save them and make something else. Or sometimes we might do a craft and say, oh, if you have this at your house still, please use it. So of course, if you don't want junk in your house and your parents say throw it away, you can throw it away if you don't use it. But we would encourage you to save it and make something out of it. So I didn't want you guys to have to watch me make my whole house, but I do have a couple other ideas. So lots of times when you see houses, you see windows. So with some little scratch pieces of white paper, and they're kind of crooked, so I'm just going to trim them to make them more square-like. I'm going to make some windows. And I have an idea for the fabric. I'm not totally sure yet how that'll work, actually. Oh, okay, so you saw me cut. You can't exactly see what I'm doing, but I'll hold it up in a minute. So I'm making some windows, and so with these white pieces of paper, I've got my glue stick. Now, I did ask you guys if you had liquid glue at your house, so a glue bottle. Some of you didn't, and I will be honest with you, I totally forgot to put liquid glue in your packets, so if you need it, please remind us, either Miss Kay or I, when we chat with you, and we can give you some glue to borrow for making this maybe on the weekend or next week. So I apologize if you needed glue and you did not get glue. That was my fault. Sometimes I make a list of things that I need to remember, and I did make a list of things actually to put in your packets for this house, but glue was not on my list, so I did not remember. It does help to make lists. I'm noticing lots of kids that come to us on Zoom have questions written out actually on a list, and that's a really good way to do it, because as you're working, things might come up, right, that you have to ask us, and maybe it has to do with the work, or maybe it just has to do with something in general. It really, really does help to write it down. Trust me. Alright, so now I've got some windows, and they're also not perfectly symmetrical, which I am totally okay with. I'm not really a symmetrical sort of person. So here are my windows. And I think I'm going to use, and this is the part I might need some liquid glue for. I think I'm going to use my fabric to make curtains. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces of fabric to cover my window to make curtains. Now, if I found that the glue didn't really work, and I had clear tape or masking tape, that would be another way that I would do my curtains. I think the glue that I have should work. Okay. It's wood glue. I think I told you guys in the Zoom that I didn't have Elmer's glue or that white glue at my house, but I did have wood glue. So, alright. So now, I've got that. So I'm going to glue one of my curtains on to see if it works. See? There we go. Wood glue. If I could get it open. Pull to open. What? Pull to open, push to close. I don't know what's going on here, guys. Okay, there. I just needed some muscles. I was following the directions. It said pull to open, so I'm gonna put some glue top of my window. And then I'm using this as a curtain. I'll show you guys in a minute. I just thought of another way I could do this that might be even better, but that is okay. Maybe one of you will do it. So there we go. Now I've got a curtain. You also could maybe glue, if you wanted to make them smaller, you could glue along the sides and have those curtains that sort of open up this way. So I've got a curtain. Ugh, it's sticky. Okay. And then I am going to draw inside of my curtains. Something you might see if you were looking in the windows. And I wish I had a better selection of colors. I don't have colored pencils. Well, I do have colored pencils, just not the colors of the things that I want to draw. Alright, so I've got, oh, I'm super excited about this. So we can pretend that Pippa turned orange. Okay, so for now, that's sort of what we're thinking. Pippa is now orange, and when you think of an orange cat, you might think of Crenshaw. So in the window, I'm drawing a cat. And in my other window, I'm going to draw, you guys can probably guess, what am I going to draw in the other window? I'm going to draw a spotted dog with long ears. So, a spotted dog with long ears, for me, is just easier to draw than a cat. When I drew a dog with pointy ears, Nigel told me it looked like a cat, and he was right. So German Shepherds, as you know, have sort of the stand-up ears, right? And they don't look like cats at all, but sometimes when you draw, if you're not the most talented artist, sometimes when you draw dogs with stick-up ears, they end up looking more like cats. So in this case, I'm drawing a spotty-eared dog, but it does have bandana. I think it's cute when dogs have bandanas. Now, there aren't curtains on that window yet. And I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do with the side. But, so you guys, be creative with this. If you have other materials at your house that you want to use, maybe you have some foil and you want to put some foil on your house somehow for like a satellite dish or something on the roof. Really, like, this is your house. I would like you actually to, and I realize this is Thursday and you turn in your work on Thursday. Don't forget to turn in all your books, especially older students. We need to see everything. Younger students, don't forget your journals. Now, I understand that when you turn it in, then you don't have your journal for Friday. So, I just want to be sure that every once in a while we are seeing your journal. So, if you turn it in this week, then maybe take a break. Don't turn it in next week. But we do need to see that you are doing them. Some of you who aren't usually behind are actually falling behind on that sort of stuff. So please turn in all your materials. Math notebooks, language notebooks, spelling books, vocabulary, math books. We got to see all that stuff. Anyway, I do want you guys to turn in your houses. However, that would be a lot of pressure to complete this in one day. It's a lot of work, especially if you're taking your time on it. You do not have to turn it in today. So if you want to continue the project into next week and turn it in next Thursday, that is absolutely okay. I encourage you to take your time, do this in steps. I don't think I'm going to finish this right away. I want to take a break and see. Maybe I'll have a creative idea for the side, but don't do it all at once. That sometimes takes the fun out of it when you start something and you feel like you have to finish it right away. So that's one of the beauties of this. Do a little bit each day. So, All right, you guys, have fun creating house, apartment, condo, whatever you like. And attached to this, so on Google Classroom, I usually post a group time and a music. I will attach some pictures of some other kids' houses of where I got the idea. I did not think of this on my own. I saw it on Pinterest. So I will attach some pictures of what other students created, and I look forward to seeing yours. And right now I would like you to find a spot for music. And don't forget that during group time, you all are responsible for teaching us your mindful move, which we talked about in our individual Zooms. All right, for music. This week's feature composition is the music for the Royal Fireworks. Do you remember the name of the composer? If you are thinking of George Frederick Handel, then you are right. Handel composed the music for the Royal Fireworks 250 years ago at the request of King George I of England. The music accompanied a fireworks display that celebrated peace between England and France in 1749. All right, have a good day, guys. See you in Zoom.